process, both in terms of the entrance exam and more importantly, getting your profile ready so that you could be admitted into what is arguably one of the best postgraduate programs available in India today. I'm fortunate to be joined for today's session by Mr. Amit Tyagi. Amit is Director of Admissions at ISB, and he will graciously spend the next 30 to 45 minutes walking you through some of what's special at ISB. ISB is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, Amit.
22nd now. 20th we have finished last year.
Okay.
So, and by the way, thanks for the promotion. I'm actually the Associate Director at ISB. I lead the PGB program.
Okay. So Amit, I'll throw it open to you. I'll just take a couple more minutes and just introduce myself and the rest of our team that's here today. My name is Arjun Wadhwa. I'm the CFO of CL Educate, and I look after all our study abroad programs. And while ISB is very much at home India-based program, we do look at it from a study abroad perspective because it requires an admission test, which includes the option of taking the GMAT or the GRE. So we'll spend some time on that and on profile building and how to crack getting into ISB over the course of the next 1.5 to 2 hours. Joining me from my side for this session are my colleagues Deepak Agarwal. Deepak, if you could just switch on your screen and say hi to everyone. And Harshit Kumar. Harshit, if you're there.
Hello,
Harshit.
everyone.
Okay, so that was Deepak. Deepak, if you could just leave your screen on for a second so that people can recognize you and stay with you going forward. Yeah, so that's Deepak. Deepak will be your spot for arranging one-to-one specific profile building sessions for ISB once this session is done. So we'll share his contact number and he'll be the person you'll need to get in touch with after this session to schedule your personalized free counseling session on how to crack the ISB entrance and admissions process. So Deepak will be available towards the fag end of this session and we'll spend more time with him. Also joining us is Harshit Kumar. Harshit, if you could also just for a second unmute your mic.
Yeah, hi Arjun, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi Arjun. So, yeah.
So that's Harshit, everyone. Harshit is a recent alumnus of ISB. Harshit, which batch were you?
CO20, class of 2020, PGP
Okay.
class of 2020.
So that's fairly recent, and you know, he will give you the alumni perspective and you know, will be available to interact with students later on as well. But it's important for you to be able to put a face to the name, and Harshit will spend time with you guys over the coming weekends to help you crack your profile building for ISB. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Amit. Amit, do you want to run the PPT from your side? Should I give you a screen sharing and hosting rights?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So welcome everyone to this session, and let me take you through what ISB is all about and why ISB is featuring here in the study abroad section of CL's session. So let's talk about the origins of ISB. ISB was started in the year 2001, and when we were starting out, we did not want to reinvent the wheel, but we wanted to learn from the world's best. And that's when we partnered with Kellogg and Wharton as our founding associate preschools. And they helped us with the setting up the institute in the initial years. They shared their faculty, their curriculum, their processes, and helped us become a teaching institute par excellence within a very short period of time. And that's when we realized that, any top educational institution in the world is not just a knowledge creator, but not knowledge disseminator, but also knowledge creator. And that's why we partnered with LBS and MIT Sloan School of Management. They are the world's foremost research focused B schools, and they helped us build the research practice at ISB. Moving on, we also partnered with the Fletcher School at the Tufts University for its unmatched expertise in law and legal environment. And that's where our strength in public policy comes in. And we offer public policy as a specialization to our students. We offer a lot of short-term programs and advancement programs in the areas of public policy for working professionals, for the government sector, for the corporates. And we also work closely with various state governments and central governments, with various government bodies like Niti Aayog in the areas of governance and administration. And we derive its strength from the Tufts University and the Fletcher School. Now, all these five are a key global alliances. They have a say in our functioning, in our future steps. They have a seat on a governing council, and they set the vision and contribute to the school going forward as well. Apart from this global alliances, we have collaborations with 50 plus other top B schools and universities worldwide for student exchange, faculty exchange, and research. And this has helped us become a global B school right here in the heart of India, across our two campuses in Hyderabad and Mohali. And this also reflects in the global MBA rankings. So if you look at the global MBA rankings for the FT MBA rankings 2023, we are ranked number 1 in India, number 6 in Asia, and we're ranked number 39 globally. More importantly, we're also ranked number 2 in the world in terms of salary growth of a cohort. That is a incoming salary of the cohort versus the outgoing salary. Saw a growth of 155% last year, and which puts us as a number 2 in the world in this particular parameter. In terms of research, also we rank very highly by various publications and various institutions. AMA ranks us number 1 in Asia, number 44 globally. A lot of other publications, Post and Cons, Forbes also rank us very highly worldwide. Now, we also are among a select few schools worldwide to have the Triple Crown accreditation, which is nothing but accreditation by the top 3 accreditation bodies, ACSB, Equus, and EMBA. And we are, in fact, the youngest B school worldwide to hold this particular Triple Crown accreditation. And there are currently only 108 B schools worldwide, and we are among them. So all this puts us firmly as a global B school with a global outlook right here in the heart of India. And you learn global best practices with an Indian perspective at the Indian School of Business. Now, when we started out in 2001, the then Prime Minister, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, laid the foundation stone for the school. The 5th year celebrations were presided by Shri Manmohan Singh, and then US President George W. Bush also was visited the campus in that particular year. The 10th year, we had then President Pratibha Patil. 15th year, we had then President Pranab Mukherjee as part of our celebrations. And last year, we celebrated our 20th year anniversary, and we had Shri Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, who was part of the celebrations. So let's look at a short video which showcases the 20 years of ISB's impact, which we have done over the years. I'll play this video. Do let me know if you hear the sound. Is the video audible?
No, it's not audible.
Okay, I'll just reshare it once again.
ISB एशिया के टॉप बिजनेस स्कूलों में से एक है। आईएसबी से निकलने वाले जो प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, वे देश के बिजनेस को गति दे रहे हैं, बड़ी-बड़ी कंपनियों का मैनेजमेंट संभाल रहे हैं। यहाँ के स्टूडेंट्स ने अनेक स्टार्टअप बनाए हैं, अनेकों यूनिकॉर्न्स निर्माण में उनकी भूमिका रही है। ये आईएसबी के लिए उपलब्धि तो है ही, पूरे देश के लिए गर्व का विषय भी है।
A school with this kind of capability, a school with this kind of resources, it has to aim really, really high. So the goals will be that high. We'll set those goals that high, but we'll also come up with a plan about what are the steps that we need to be taking so that we'll be achieving those goals in 5 years and set ourselves up so that we become a world-beating business school in the not so distant future.
So that was 20 years of ISB for you in 2.5 minutes. Now let me talk about 5 key things which set the PGP at the ISB apart from other B schools. Or alternatively, we can also think about these as 5 factors which we look at while shortlisting a B school for yourself. So first up, let's talk about a unique model of faculty at ISB. So at ISB, even though we have a pool of 70 plus teaching and research faculty members across our 2 campuses who teach a contemporary curriculum, but we also have a pool of 200 plus visiting faculty members from top global B schools. And when I say visiting faculty members, they don't visit for one of lecture here and there, but they visit ISB for a complete term and teach a complete course. So what this gives you is that it gives you access to top faculty from worldwide, right here in the heart of India, across the 2 campuses. So you don't have to go to Kellogg to learn from faculty members there. They come here and teach you. Similarly, with 50 plus other top universities, faculty members come here and take the courses which they take in the respective universities at ISB campuses, and then go back to the respective universities. Now, when I talk about faculty, 2 key things come to my, 2 key examples come to my mind. One is, you must have seen in the video, Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramaniam. He is the former Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India and currently is also the Executive Director at the IMF. And at his role as CEA or at IMF, he advises governments on matters of finance and economics. And guess what? He's a faculty at ISB for the last so many years and teaches finance and economics to his students. So imagine learning finance and economics from somebody who advises governments on those matters. Similarly, another example is of Dr. Edward Rogers. So he has been the Chief Knowledge Officer at NASA for many years. He has a distinguished career at NASA. He retired a couple of years back in his own startup. And as a rocket scientist at NASA, he dealt with complexity day in and day out. As we say, rocket science is a very complex subject. And guess what? At ISB, has been teaching a course called Managing Business Complexity for past so many years. So that's the kind of teaching talent which we have because of a unique model of faculty which we follow. And this ensures that you get to learn from not just the best academicians, but also from the world's best practitioners as well. Moving on, let's talk about our learning model. And we have a 4-tiered learning model for students. Of course, classroom learning is the most important element in this particular segment, but we also supplement classroom learning with applied learning, peer learning, and events and competitions. In terms of classroom learning, we follow the case-based methodology of learning taught by all the top B schools worldwide. We offer students 10 specializations, 6 functional and 4 industry specializations. The program is of 52-week duration spread across 8 terms. And the first 3.5 terms, you take around 16 core courses. And the next 4.5 terms, you take between 18 to 20 electives as part of your curriculum. And those electives will then decide your specialization. So you can specialize in any 2 of those 10 specializations that we offer to our students. In terms of applied learning, we have something called an ELP. ELP is an experiential learning program, as we call it. It's a live project which students do with top organizations in India, and they do it along with the curriculum at ISB. It's a for credit program, and you earn credits for doing an ELP. But you work on a live problem for 3.5 months, and at the end of that, you spend a week at that organization and implement your learnings and give presentations on what you have found for the problem which the company gave you initially. And this also leads to a lot of PPIs and PPOs for students at ISB through the ELP program, as we call it. The PAV is the second aspect of applied learning, and this is plan and entrepreneurial venture. This is for students who want to be entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurship is one of the specializations we offer to students. And we also offer this program for students across both our campuses. And these are offered by the incubation centers which we have across Mohali and Hyderabad. In Hyderabad, we have D Labs. In Mohali, we have the Turtle Incubation Center. And as part of the PAV, you learn how to write a business plan, how to choose the right financial models, how to raise funds, networking with investors, and so on and so forth. And after you complete this course, you can write your own B plan, submit to the incubation centers, and if we find merit in the plan, we will incubate those organizations. And when we say incubate, we not just give you office space, we also have access to the ISB ecosystem, the alumni network, the investors, and so on and so forth. And you also get stipend of 1 lakh rupees per month for a year when you're building your startup. After that 1 year, if you succeed, you can raise funds and move on. Or if you don't succeed, then you come back next year, sit for ISB placements, and restart your corporate journey. So this is something which ensures that people who have ideas, people who want to take risks, can do so with a safety net in place for them to become entrepreneurs. In terms of peer learning, we have 50 plus international exchange opportunities for students. They can go and spend a term or two abroad in various partner universities. And those students also come from those universities and spend a term at ISB, which ensures that you learn not just from your peers in India, but also from peers worldwide who you have access to build networks with in various universities worldwide. We have 14 professional and 10 social clubs for students to hone their professional and social skill sets. And since the program is fully residential, we have a lot of seminars and conferences which keep on happening almost every other week. And you have access to the world's top speakers right here in the SB campuses in Mohali and Hyderabad. Recently, last 2 weeks back, we had Mr. N. Chandrasekharan, the chairman of the Tata Group, who came and spoke to address the students. And many such speakers over the years have been part of talks at ISB campuses. As ISB students, you also have access to the world's top events and competitions, and you can benchmark yourself with peers, not just in ISB or in India, but also peers across the world. Recently, if you've been following our social media pages, you would know that one of our teams at ISB won a case competition in Singapore worth 5 lakhs, and many such teams every year win case competitions and events across the world. Moving on, another important aspect of the ISP classrooms is the diversity. So if you are going to be learning through a case-based method of learning, two things are important. One is diversity, second is work experience. Only then we will appreciate the case-based method of learning, since you get perspectives from different backgrounds, people who are non-engineers, people who are from the commerce background, people who are CAs, people who are from the humanities background. They bring in their own unique perspectives to a case in the classroom and also beyond the classroom. And second is, since people have at least 2 years of work experience in the class, they're all conversant with how an organization functions, and the insights which come into the classroom discussions are from a place where people from different experiences bring in their perspectives. And this helps you learn from your peers and also from the faculty in the classrooms. If we talk about diversity, we have some extreme examples as well. We have had people who are artists who have participated in Indian Idol competitions. We have people who have participated in beauty pageants. We have people who have played cricket in the IPL. A former IPL cricket player for the KKR is now in the class. Somebody who was a top-ranked badminton player in the world, 13th ranked at a time, graduated last year, is now part of Bain & Company. So those are some examples of diversity. But in general, if you look at the diversity parameters, this is what a class at ISB looks like. So this year's class has 881 students. 600 are in Hyderabad, around 270 odd are in Mohali. And we have an equal split in terms of engineers versus non-engineers. So there are 49% engineers, 51% non-engineers in the class. There are 40% women in the class, among the highest in the country or worldwide, on par with the world's top global business schools in terms of gender diversity. And if you look at another important aspect here, a very interesting aspect is the GMAT and GRE scores. So the range for GMAT for the class currently is 580 to 780. Somebody 530 to 780. Somebody with 530 also got in the class. Somebody with 780 also got in the class. The average is 710 and the median is average is 716 and the median is 710. So this shows that GMAT is not the be all for admissions to ISB. We look at the holistic profile of the candidate. So if your GMAT scores on the lower side, you can cover up in other areas. And similarly, if your other areas are slightly weaker, you can cover up with the GMAT or the GRE score. In terms of work experience, we have people with 4.5 years of average work experience in the class, but there's a huge range there as well. People with 2 to 24 years work experience are in the class in the current cohort. And age-wise also, we have people with 22 to 44 years in the class currently. Now let's talk about the next aspect, which is the network, which we are part of, being a part of alumni network. So ISB alumni network is already 15,000 strong currently. of which 90% are part of the PGP group, and of which already 550 LM are in CXO and top leadership roles. 600 LMs have their own startups or are in their family businesses, and 12 unicorns are currently being run by ISB LMs in India. ISB LM is spread across the world, 60 plus countries and 400 plus cities currently, although 79% are currently now spread across the rest of the world. And one thing about the ISB LM network, which I'm sure Harshit also will be addressing in his talk, is that your learning does not stop even if you graduate from ISB. So we have something called 11 special interest groups. LMs can be part of any of these SIGs, as we call them, and they can keep learning even beyond graduating from ISB. So these SIGs organize events for the alumni community in terms of learning events, mentorship events, connect events, talks by eminent personalities in those areas. And this gives us an opportunity to the alums to learn from the world's best, even after graduating from the Indian School of Business. Moving on, let's talk about the facilities which we have. So we have two campuses, one in Hyderabad, one in Mohali. And we follow a philosophy called one school, two campuses, one experience. What this means is that whether you're at Hyderabad or whether you're at Mohali, you get the same consistent ISB experience. We go to great lengths to ensure that the student body is uniform across both the campuses. The earlier slide which I talked about the diversity parameters, the campus diversity was consistent across various parameters. And in terms of placements and admissions, they are integrated. The campuses are integrated. So you don't apply to ISB Hyderabad or ISB Mohali, you apply to ISB, you give a preference of the campus, and we try to make sure that we try to give up the preferred campus. But in some instances, since we want to ensure the diversity is considered across the two campuses, you may not get a preferred campus. Similarly, placements are integrated. So placements don't happen for Hyderabad and Mohali separately. They happen at single location, either Hyderabad or Mohali. And companies are not even supposed to know whether you are from Hyderabad or Mohali. You are all ISB students for them. And if the campus happens in placements happen in Mohali, then all the students from Hyderabad will fly down to Mohali and vice versa. Let's see a brief video which showcases the facilities which we have across our two campuses, Hyderabad and Mohali. That was one school, two campuses for you. Moving on, let's talk about the placements at ISB. So the figures are on the screen. 34.21 lakhs was average salary last year, which is the highest ever in the history of ISB, and average of up to 2 offers per students. The detailed stats are also available on the placement report, which is there on our website. You can look at stats function-wise, industry-wise, age-wise in the placement report. But what is more important, I want to touch upon here is the career shifts which the placement team at ISB ensures. So if you look at the Venn diagram on the screen, it shows that 65% or roughly 2/3 of the cohort last year had both a function shift and an industry shift. That is, if they're working in sales in automotive industry, they move to finance, maybe in IT. And similarly, around 80% had a function shift and around 73% had an industry shift in the last year's cohort. And that's what an MBA is all about, moving into different industries or transitioning your career into different industries of your choice after your certain years of work experience. And the placement team at ISB ensures that you have opportunities to transition into careers of your choice through the ISB campus placement process. Looking at the companies which come into recruit our students, so even though we are known as a tech and a consulting campus, and it's to an extent true that any consulting company, you name it, it comes and hires at ISB. In fact, McKinsey hires the maximum number of its recruits in Asia from the ISB campus. Similarly, for tech, all the top tech organizations come and hire at ISB. But we also have a huge depth in terms of the placements. And if you look at any organization and any vertical, any industry, you will find a representation from that industry at the ISB campus placement program. And this is due to the fact that we have a very professional placement team of 30 plus professionals who work day in and day out across geographies, from offices in Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi, Hyderabad, even abroad, and ensure that we build relationships with organizations and bring them to campus year after year to recruit our students. So this also has ensured that even in the year like last year, where companies were laying off people, we've been able to get an all-time high salary, average salaries for our students. Now, let's talk about, how to get into ISB. What are the modes of entry? So there are 3 modes of entry for getting into the PG program at ISB. The first one is a direct entry. This is for people who have at least 24 months of work experience as on the class start date. The classes start in April. So you should have at least 24 months of work experience as on 31st of March, 2023 to join the classes in April 2024, to join the classes in April 2024, right? So that is the direct admission, and for this you have to have a minimum a bachelor's degree and a valid GMAT or a GRE score. Now, what happens if you don't have 24 months of work experience as on the class start date? You can still apply to ISB. We'll consider you along with other candidates, and if we find you suitable, we'll make you an offer. But that offer will not be an offer for that year's class. It will be a deferred admission for the class in which you complete 24 months of work experience. So that is the early entry option. You secure your seat early, but you have to complete 24 months before you can join the class, a particular year's class. So these are 2 options, direct entry and early entry option for people with work experience. Now, there's also an option for people who are currently in their undergraduate courses. People who are in the 3rd year or final year or pre-final year or final year of their colleges, they can join the program through the Young Leaders program, what we call it. Again, this is a deferred admission. So here you have to apply separately in the YLP application portal. And you go to 3 stages. First stage is a profile-based screening. The second stage is the GMAT and the SC-based screening. And the 3rd stage is the interview. And basis which will make you an offer. Once you have an offer, you have to graduate from your colleges, get 20 months of work experience, and then you can come and join the program without any further process. So this is for people who are currently in the colleges, Young Leaders program. And this is a separate application form altogether. Now, talking about, what do we look at in terms of the application? So application form is online. The essentials for applying are a bachelor's degree, a work experience of 24 months to join the class, and a valid GMAT or a GRE. What is a valid GMAT? GMAT score which is no older than 5 years as on the deadline date in the round in which you're applying. Same with GRE. Application form is online. We'll capture your academic details. We'll capture your employment history. You have to write 2 essays. One of them, and there's another non-mandatory essay as well, and submit 1 recommendation letter, or what we call a letter of recommendation, which is an online LOR, which you will submit. What do we look at essay? We look at your uniqueness, your self-awareness, how self-aware you are, what are your unique points in your profile. And the 3rd essay captures the career goals, which is this year non-mandatory. Now, talking about scholarships. So at ISB, every year, roughly 25% of students receive some sort of a scholarship or other. There are basically 3 types of scholarships. First is for people who are applying to ISB at the time of application. So here we have two types of scholarships: merit scholarship and merit cum need scholarship. Merit scholarship is for people who are it's open to everyone who's applying to ISB. And here the category, the criteria is your performance in the ISB selection process. That is your profile score through application, your interview score, and the overall score, which is the cumulative score of score and the interview score. Might come need scholarship is for people whose annual family income is less than 18 lakhs per annum. So if your annual family income is less than 18 lakhs per annum, you can apply for need come merit scholarship. You will write an additional essay, and here also we give tuition fee waivers to students. Now for merit scholarships, we have up to 100% of tuition fee waivers to students. For need come merit scholarship, we have tuition waivers up to 20 to 25 lakhs available for people who are meritorious, as well as whose annual family income is less than the threshold of 18 lakhs per annum. Apart from that, there are a lot of other scholarships that are supported by donors, by various other bodies. This scholarships you can apply once you become ISB students. So there are scholarships like Citibank scholarship, AT&T scholarship, scholarships in memory of faculty members, by memory of alums. There's a women scholarship, there's a scholarship for sports people at ISB, which you apply once you become ISB students. There's a process, you go through it, and if you are shortlisted, you receive the scholarship. Now, the third type of scholarship is for people who are graduating, and this is offered for various initiatives. So there's a President Scholarship offered to people who are meritorious. There's an IT scholarship for people who specialize in IT and receive top grades. There's a scholarship called Develop India Scholarship for people who want to work in the social sector after graduating from ISB. So we give them a stipend of at least 25,000 rupees per month to encourage them to work in the social sector and work for development of the organization of the country after graduating from ISB. So that was about the scholarships. That brings me to the end of my presentation. So just to remind you all, PGP and early entry option, the deadline for this year is September 10, 2023. If you scan this QR code, you can go to the application portal and start looking at the various aspects of the application. The deadline for YLP round 1, stage 1 is going to be 22nd of October. The portal for that as well is live, and I'll be happy to take questions towards the end. In case I'm not able to answer any of your questions today or we run out of time, you can reach out to us on various parameters on this touch points, the email, the phone number, the social media pages, and we'll be happy to reach out to you there and also answer any queries that you might have. So that was all I had from my side. Over to you, Arjun, for the second part of the.
Thanks so much, Amit. That was fantastic. I'm sure the students would have gained a lot from understanding, a little bit more about ISB and also getting a feel of both campuses. I think the second video ensured that the Mohali campus was portrayed in excellent light and showcased the value for all potential aspirants, that it doesn't matter whether you go to Hyderabad or Mohali, you'll get the same placement experience and the same faculty experience, whether you go left or whether you go right. So that was a terrific session. We will have time for Q&A later on, and I will request everyone to just either type in their questions in the chat box, and we will come to them in about 20 minutes time. What I'm going to do over the next 20 minutes is just run you through some of our experiences of ISB. So far you've heard from the best possible source, that's the horse's mouth, about what a terrific school ISB is. There are 2-3 standard questions which I'm going to throw at Amit even before your questions come in, including how does the 1-year ISB program compare with the 2-year programs that are offered by the other B schools in India? How does it compare internationally? How does the return on investment match up in terms of the cost of the program at ISB versus others? So we'll hold on to Amit's answers for those questions, and Amit himself, being from IIM Calcutta, helps in looking at both sides of that paradigm and to be able to address that. What I will do is, before we throw those questions at Amit, is I'm going to run you through 10-15 very quick slides, because obviously today you want to hear more from him than from me. But I'll just give you a quick overview in terms of what we do to help you crack your ISB admission, and a few other nuggets that we think are useful for you to know which Amit might have touched upon briefly, but especially depending on, what sectors you come from, what is your level of experience. These will be useful for you to take a decision on whether your direction is ISB, whether your direction is Stanford or Yale or MIT Sloan, or whether your direction is IIM Ahmedabad. Amit shared details of what the average packages were like last year. We've thrown some data up, and sorry, before I forget, both Amit's presentation and my presentation will be up on our ISB page on the Career Launcher website in the next 24 hours. So for those of you who need to invest, who want to invest a little bit of time going through these details later on, all of this information will be made available to you. One thing we wish to highlight by showing you this slide is that the average salaries pretty much are comparable across industry segments. So it doesn't matter whether you're chasing a career in e-commerce or in the BFSI space. The average salaries here are 33.5, over here they're 34.5. At that level, a lakh upward here or there doesn't really make a difference. You'll make up for it as you go deeper into your careers. What our experience of ISB has been, and Amit showcased some of the companies visiting campus over the last year, is ISB is superb for placements, especially in the BFSI space, the consulting space, ITES, transportation and logistics, and e-commerce. So if you belong to these industries or aspire to belong to these industries, ISB is a great institute to target. In terms of functional areas also, it doesn't really matter too much, but like is the case in a lot of top business schools, consulting jobs and strategic planning jobs often have the highest pay packages. Here you can see 48 lakhs, 50 lakhs, but it's not like others are far behind. You'll notice that product management has seen a massive growth over the last, and a massive demand over the last few years. It's especially hard in today's marketplace to find great young product managers, and that's one good area you might choose to invest in if you're looking to do your MBA. I'll move on a little bit quickly. This is something that we will spend more time with on Amit later on, but just so that you have a perspective, the ISB one-year program costs about 40 lakhs. And as Amit said, I beg your pardon, 25% of the students studying on campus have some sort of scholarship options available. So yes, it might appear a little expensive, but as you saw from the previous slide, most people will make up their investment in ISB within a year, at most a year and a half, in terms of the salary package they get when they graduate. And as he said, there are certain scholarship options available. We'll spend a little more time on them as well as we move forward. Oh, in fact, here they are. So as Amit mentioned, there are certain merit scholarships, there are certain diversity scholarships, there are certain functional scholarships. We have these details available. For example, one of the more popular scholarships is the NEET cum merit waiver. For those whose family income is less than 18 lakhs, it's a very simple process, an essay and a proof of income, and you could potentially become available for a 25% scholarship. So these are, this slide and the next slide, as I said, we'll make these slides available to you. And all this information is also readily available online. But the point is that when you take your decision on whether or not to apply at ISB, don't worry about the funding. Okay, we'll cover it towards the end of the session as well. There are lots of loan opportunities available for deserving candidates who have an admission letter from a top business school like ISB, and with the scholarship options available and the ROI you get in terms of placements, the cost of the MBA, or rather the investment that you put in your one-year program, is worth it. Amit covered these briefly in terms of what are the eligibility criteria for the different programs. This is especially useful for those of you who have just started your careers in terms of WorkX. If you have a minimum of 2 years WorkX, you should directly go into the PGP program. For the rest of you, the option of deferred entry is an amazing option, especially if you're currently in your pre-final or final year of graduation. You must apply to the Young Leaders program and look at blocking a seat for yourself 2 years down the line. It's a 3-stage application process. And, after this session, when you book your one-to-one direct profile building analysis sessions with us later on, we'll walk you through exactly what you need to do to ensure that you can crack either entry through the Young Leaders program or directly if you have the requisite work experience. And between those two options is the early entry option, where if you have your a valid GMAT or GRE score, as Amit said, the GMAT score cannot be more than 5 years old. You can use that to block your admission, and we'll spend some time on GMAT lenge or GRE lenge also later on in this session. But just to give you a brief overview right now, while Amit shared that the range starts as low as 580 for those who've got admission last year, he also did share that the average, and Amit, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, the average was 716 and the median was 710. So you're basically looking at a 700 plus GMAT score or a 320 plus GRE score. And out of these, based on our experience of working with students for the last 27 years, it's a little bit easier to get a 700 plus GMAT score than it is to get a 325 GRE score. Though, of course, it depends on what you have in terms of your mathematical aptitude and so on. And we'll come to that again as part of your one-to-one counseling later on. Moving forward, the test scores only form a very small part of your application process. And the reason I want to spend a little bit of time on this right now is, when you're looking to apply to some of the best schools across the world, the actual weightage that some schools, and without putting any specifics to ISB, because that information is not in the public domain, but typically most schools don't give a weightage of more than 25 to 30% to your GMAT score, which is why someone with an exceptionally low GMAT score like 580 is able to sit in a batch with another person with a GMAT score of 760. What they look at more closely is, what does your profile really look like? What kind of academics that are you bringing forth? Are you academically inclined? Have you had good marks in your 10th and 12th? You come with the kind of inclination of the kind of person who is going to go there to actually focus all their attention on study. So the academic credentials are a critical part, but just as important is your leadership potential and your personal attributes. And we'll invest some time on each of these when we look at the profile building side of what goes into, getting into ISB. We'll do that by also taking a few examples. But just before that, a little bit about the GMAT exam. If you're going to take the current edition of the exam, it's going to cost you about $275 if you take it at a test center, or you can do it online, it's $300. And each of these obviously comes at an investment, and you get your reports and so on. I won't spend time on that right now. And there's the exam pattern of what the traditional GMAT exam has been like. 12 questions in integrated reasoning, 31 questions in quant, 36 questions in verbal. This has been the exam pattern, and that's the amount of time it takes that you're given to do that exam. This is what I want to actually spend a little bit more time on. What I showed you in the previous slide is the GMAT exam pattern as on date today. GMAT is changing its exam pattern with effect from October of this year, and they're moving to a 2-hour, 15-minute exam with 64 questions broken up into 3 sections now, which includes quant, verbal reasoning, and data insights. Data insights is a mix of DI, DS, and critical reasoning that you would be familiar with in terms of your CAT preparation. And by bringing in a new exam, they've made a fair bit of changes in terms of how you'll approach the exam, what kind of scores you'll get, and in terms of they've also improved the quality of the reports that they generate, which will help schools like ISB understand and analyze your profile in more detail. Amit, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but this year ISB for the round one applications will work with the old GMAT pattern, and for the round two applications will be open to both patterns.
Yes, we will be open to both the patterns once the GMAT focus comes in. So by round one, I don't think GMAT focus test will be in place. So we'll accept classical GMAT till round one and even beyond that. So we're open to both of them.
Okay. So and just to share with you, the general perception is that all international business schools as well will accept the old GMAT pattern scores and will allow you to take the GMAT test as per the old pattern till February of next year, after which the new pattern will become mandatory in terms of the testing. But as Amit has shared, and most top schools across the world will do it, they will continue to accept the old scores from the old pattern for at least 3 to 5 years. Right, Amit?
Yes.
Great. Thanks. Okay, so again, before I throw it open to Q&A, just a little bit more in terms of building your profile. See, when we look at a candidate, when it comes to presenting yourself to a top school anywhere in the world, what you have in terms of your academics and your marks is just one very small facet of who you are. What we look at in terms of profile, and we do this whether we're recruiting, at any level across an organization, or we do it when we're recruiting for schools as well, is leadership potential. And at the end of the day, the objective of a business school is not to churn out managers. The objective of a great business school is to churn out leaders who can actually make a difference in the world, who can make a difference to lives of millions. And what, my apologies if you lost me for a second. The rains in Delhi are certainly playing havoc, and my internet connection went up in flames for a quick second. Fortunately, we have backups available. I'll just go back to where we are in terms of the presentation. I'm sorry, is my slide visible? Amit, if you could just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So, okay, thank you so much. So as I was saying, leadership potential is one of the most important key attributes that we look at and that schools look at in terms of a profile while recruiting students. Similarly, there are a lot of other things that we look at, and I'm not going to invest all our time into each of these right now. We'll do this when we do your one-to-one profile building set, but we look at things like your personal attributes. We look at, what kind of impact you've made in terms of your life so far. We look at, do you have an innovative streak in you? We look at, has there been a logic in terms of how your career has progressed till date, and is there a logical progression in terms of where your career is headed post joining an institute like ISB, and so on. I'll take one quick example to illustrate this. This is one of our students who got into ISB last year. I've covered the name and I've covered the board from which he or she is from. But BCom honors student, decent marks, 84%. Good scores in class 10 and 12. Good to the extent that did well, but not phenomenal. You know, we're not talking about a 99% or 96. Very decent for in terms of an academic profile. Scored a 7, studied with us, scored a 720 in the GMAT exam, did well across sections. Again, 720 is a 95 percentile. So it's not, you know, outrageously phenomenal, but it's a good, very decent competitive score. What this individual did have was she was Scholar of the Year for 5 straight years in in terms of their school background. I beg your pardon. And this is something which is showcasing the individual's academic inclination. So all top B schools and ISB included look at whether this person has an orientation towards academics. Are they going to actually come to my class and study, or are they just going to come in and pass time? And if that consistency of academics is not there, it makes their admission very, very hard, unless you fall into an exceptional category. Like Amit mentioned, you're an IPL player, then you're looked at from a completely different perspective. But you know, for 99% of you who are going through a routine which everyone else is, and you need to distinguish yourself as a candidate, these are the things which make a difference. This individual co-founded a jewelry brand, and that is, so this shows an enormous amount of initiative. It showed a leadership potential. Amit is trying to guess who the student is, and I'm not going to give you clues, Amit. You can see the perplexed look on his face. And this individual, and as you can probably guess from the next line, does come from a Kashmiri background and lobbied for better rights for people who are displaced from that community. The fact that the brand that this individual created now retails on 3 top e-commerce platforms also showcases that not only did this person show some initiative, they also made an impact, and there was logical progression in terms of what they did and taking it to some sort of a logical outcome. This is a look at that individual's CV. So was part of a leadership team. So started off their career as a research analyst, then became a national commercial planning manager, and then moved into the field of business strategy. So, and Amit, I'm still not going to tell you who it is. But yeah, this shows the individual's career progression post college. And specifically in terms of impact, this person has said they delivered over 140% growth in monthly sales targets. So it showcases impact. It showcases greater responsibility. It showcases the individual's growth. And, you know, it gives you an idea that this person was not just an academician, they also did something in terms of their work. Outside of that, other things looked at, and this is something we see in hundreds of profiles, debates, quizzing, all of this, it has value. It showcases your level of interest beyond what you would typically have in terms of your workplace or your studies. And it shows that you have a well-rounded personality. This person organized a music festival, so shows some sort of a leadership skill. They were president, in charge of raising funding. All of these show leadership skills. And each of these becomes valuable when you look and study a profile of an individual, whether it's for ISB, whether it's for Yale or Stanford, or whether it's for IIM Ahmedabad. All of these are looked at, and with different weightage across different organizations, different institutions, but these are critical towards building a profile. So for those of you who are currently in your pre-final year, in your final year, don't have any of this already in your profile, please ensure you book a session with Deepak later on to make sure that you use the next 1 or 2 years that you still have left in college well, and we'll advise you based on what your interest and your aptitude is in terms of what would be a good way for you to start building your profile so that you would become relevant for a school of ISB stature. Moving forward, I think I've more or less covered this. I won't spend too much time on this right now. These are certain activities that you can do for profile development. And again, I won't spend too much time on it, but look for internships. Internships which carry weightage across domains. So you can do internships in corporates. You can also do internships in government organizations, which would be a little bit more relevant if you're looking to go to an organization like ISB. Amit, I'm not going to spill any state secrets here, but if you've done an internship at Ministry of Finance, it looks very different from doing an internship at, with all due respect, at McDonald's or a Domino's. It puts you in a completely different league. If you've done some social work which is relevant and meaningful. So imagine you're a BFSI candidate who's done social work in the area of financial literacy, done an internship with the Ministry of Finance, has published a research paper on something in the finance domain, let's say maybe the potential impact of cryptocurrency and where that's headed in the next 3 years, and you're looking at doing your specialization in finance, the way you will be analyzed as a profile is going to be vastly different from the way someone else who will walk in without any of these on their CV. So, a lot of people come to us saying, I've worked in an NGO, but can you link that work that you're doing in an NGO with your overall profile? They come to us with, we've done 3 internships. We've done one in digital marketing. We've done one in this, we've done one in that. Link it to what you're going to do going forward in terms of, so if you're going to do product management, an internship in digital marketing is a fantastic thing to have on your CV. If you're going to do finance, maybe that digital marketing internship is not as useful as an internship, maybe, spending some time in the corporate finance function of an organization, working with someone like me. So, just to give you a quick overview, we've defined 7 steps which we feel would help you crack ISB. And while Amit will not guarantee all of these will work, we will spend a little bit of time just quickly looking at them. And when we do your one-to-one sessions, we'll invest more time in these in detail. But one critical step is, don't go in there saying, I'll figure out what I want to do after I've done my MBA or, midway through your MBA. If you've got a particular focus towards, what is it that you're really looking to do, which matches your aspiration, it matches your skill set, it matches your interests, it matches what is happening in the real world around you, and it matches external factors that impact the world, because an ISP program is just a 1-year course. So it's the world might change a lot in 1 year, but we've all been around for so many years. It doesn't change that dramatically unless there is, an external environmental changing occurrence like a COVID or something. Those happen once in a lifetime. So build your career choice based on what is happening in the world around you and based on your interest, aptitude, and personality and skills. Then identify your short and long-term goals. Again, I'm not going to go into depth covering these right now, but it's important for you to understand this, that when you present your profile, you have a short-term goal and you have a long-term goal, and the short-term goal needs to move towards what you're looking to achieve in the long term. I'm a CFO of a publicly listed company. That could have been my long-term goal. To achieve that long-term goal, I could have had certain short-term goals like doing an MBA in finance or being a chartered accountant, or investing some time in learning or picking up a degree in IFRS, and so on and so forth. So short-term goals and long-term goals and a clear definition and understanding of these will help you towards building a better profile. Understanding your skill gap, again, very critical. the skills that you require to achieve your short and long-term goals is what you have to go and out there and portray in your profile. And if you know what those skills are, you can work over the next 2 years, whether you're booking your seat through a YLP program, or whether you're looking at an early entry option and deferring your admission. You can use the next couple of years towards developing the skills that you need to ensure that you meet what you're setting out as your short and long-term goals in your profile. The next thing is your essay writing, and it's important to write your story. And this is something where I'll be very clear, we're not going to write your story for you. It's your story, you have to write it. That's the only way it will be genuine, and that's the only way in which you will be able to pitch it when you come across your interviews and when you go through the process. So what we will do is we'll read your story with you. We'll understand your story with you. We'll help you develop that story to ensure that you've captured the right thing. So we'll get you to write maybe 5,000 words about your life so far. See what of that goes into developing your story. And we will invest that time and energy in you to help you prepare your essays in such a way that you can craft them without ChatGPT's help. Because the minute you put that in, everyone's able to see right through it, and it's no longer your story. So you're going to have to do the hard yards and do it yourself. And we'll work on that. Just to give you an example of some of the essays that came recently, and as I said, we'll share these slides with you. Let's look at essay 1. Provide an honest portrayal of yourself, emphasizing your strengths and weaknesses, and highlight the key elements that have shaped your personal journey. Only 400 words. So you have to be very succinct. You have to be to the point. You have to be able to make your point and move on quickly. And it can't be something that, I will write these weaknesses, but actually when I start, building up the story around them, I will portray them as my strength and that I've done this to improve it, and so on and so forth. So we will work with you on getting these essays right. But it's important in these sort of essays is that you be vulnerable, that you be honest, and you portray the real you. Critical is to get your recommendation letters right and from the right individuals. And again, I'm not going to throw this at Amit. Amit, are you allowed to speak on this a little bit?
I was not paying attention.
On getting the right LORs.
Yes, sure. So LOR is to be got by somebody who knows you closely in a professional environment, because the LOR is not a letter to be written. It's a link which will be sent to the email ID of the person who is recommending the candidate. And the link contains a set of questions, a few multiple choice questions, a couple of subjective questions, which only a person who knows the candidate well in a professional environment can answer correctly. So choose somebody who has worked with you in the last 2 years at least, maybe your supervisor, maybe your skip level manager, maybe a customer or a client. Supervisor is ideal but some of you may not want to, tell your managers that you are applying to ISB. So in that case, get from somebody who's a customer, a client, if you're self-employed, and so on and so forth.
Thanks, Amit. So that was step 5. And one thing which came right at the end, avoid choosing colleagues and alumni who have not worked with you directly. No one wants a letter of recommendation from someone who doesn't know you, because all those letter of recommendations read exactly the same. They showcase none of your strengths, and don't go through the process of aap letter likh ke de do, main sign kar dunga. Again, the ability to differentiate LOR1 from LOR2 just doesn't exist. Your letter of recommendation has to genuinely show that, yes, this is someone that individual is strongly recommending for this course. Second last, I beg your pardon, is prepping you for those interview calls. We'll spend more time on this later on, but We'll start, by setting you up, by getting you to practice answering questions in star format, looking at situations, defining a task, looking at the action and what was the result or outcome of that. And, there's a host of other things. I think one great starting point that you've made today is investing the last 1.5 hours to understand a little bit more about ISB, researching the school. What you'll have to start doing is evaluating what kind of a life would you want if you're at ISB. Where do you see ISB adding value to you? How will you add value to yourself in terms of what you get out of ISB? And also understanding a little bit more about yourself, and we'll cover these in detail when we do your interview prep for ISB. Lastly, this is an important point. I don't want to skip it, but one of the most critical things in applications for global organizations, global institutes like ISB is getting your documentation right. You don't want to miss out on an application because you don't have that certificate or that transcript or that mark sheet. People will only hold a seat for you for that long. So if you're serious about this and you want to start thinking about it, start arranging your documents immediately. Lots of scholarships available, as Amit and I have already spoken about. And if you don't get a scholarship, not to worry. We have partnerships with 4 different financing organizations. We will help you get your loans to ensure that once you get a commitment from ISB that they want you, funding will not be a reason for you to miss out on a great school like ISB. So don't worry about that at all. In terms of what we do to help you close this, we have 3 specific programs available. One, we have a dedicated ISB admission consulting program, which we will help you crack ISB specifically. If you're an existing Career Launcher student, you'll be eligible for discounts on all of these programs, but it doesn't come as part of your existing program. We also have an MBA MIM admission consulting program, which looks at international business schools like Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Sloan, and so on. We've been sending kids to these sort of schools for the last 20 plus years. We put ISB in that category, and it's important for you to understand that. So when we help you build your application towards that, and we look at the 5 schools that you should target or the 10 schools that you target, we will have ISB on that list for you. Whether it's there as your realistic achievement school or it's your reach school or your backup school is something we'll work with you when we look at your specific profile. But we put it right up there in terms of one of the best Indian business schools and one of the best global business schools available. And of course, there's your GMAT preparation. There are some kids who've gone through our annals over the years and have got admits from, whether it's from ISB, I'm Ahmedabad, I'm Bangalore, some with scholarships. We've worked with them on their SOPs. You can read this at leisure. We'll, as I said, we'll make this presentation available to you. Just a quick look at, 12 kids who we sent to ISB over the last couple of years. They all look like you. That's important for you to remember. Okay, they're not some magicians who are, they're special, but so are you. So you have what it takes to get there. It's about having the process in place, having the right guidance, and starting on time in terms of making sure you get your applications ready. It's not rocket science. While there are a few rocket scientists at ISB, you don't need to be one of them. You can get into a great school like ISB, and you could get into a great school anywhere in the world. We've sent kids, as I said, to Yale, to Harvard, to Carnegie Mellon, to MIT, Sloan. Just go through our GMAT and our admission consulting program, and we'll help you take the next step in your careers. I'm going to throw this open to Q&A now, and Amit, I don't know if you have access to the questions that have been coming our way, but I'm just going to throw some of them at you, and please feel free to take them one at a time. Amit, Manu is asking, on an average, what is the intake difference between round 1 and round 2?
So there's no difference in terms of intakes of round 1 and round 2. It totally depends on the volume that we have. We don't have any bifurcation that this many people will take in round 1, this many people will take in round 2. It's a common cutoff which is there across the rounds. Rounds are only for the ease of application processing. So look at it as a single application cycle, applying either any of the rounds, but if you apply earlier, the better, technically, because all the seats are open, all the scholarships are open, and 100% scholarships are available only in round 1 and round 2. So apply early. But in terms of number of seats, there's no bifurcation as such across the 2 rounds.
Okay. Thanks, Amit. There's a follow-up question from Vaibhav. He's currently preparing for GMAT with us. He's asking, can I apply in the second round because I'm still doing my GMAT? Will there be any drawbacks if I don't apply in round 1? And what are the deadlines for round 2? So as you said, there'll be fewer scholarships available if you apply in round 2, because if you've applied in round 1, some of them may already be gone, right?
So yeah, scholarships in round 1, we have up to 100% of scholarships available. In round 2 also we have scholarships available up to 75%. So there is no difference in terms of the evaluation though. What I'll say is that don't just try to rush your applications for a particular round just because you want to hit that round. Complete your application, get your right GMAT score, ensure that your essays are correct, and then apply in any of the round 1, round 2, round 3, depending upon when you are ready. That's more important. But having said that, if you're ready early, apply early. Don't procrastinate just to apply in a later round or a round 2. But first and foremost, be ready for the application. That's more important rather than round 1 or round 2.
And there's another follow-up question, again asking what are the dates for round 2 and when is round 3?
Right. So round 2 will be sometime around December first week. We'll release the dates closer to the end of round 1. Round 3 may happen by 21st of third week of January is what we're looking at if it happens.
Okay. There's a question from Naresh asking whether the online GMAT score is valid. He's heard somewhere that it is not valid. Naresh, you've heard it straight from Amit. In addition to hearing it from me, yes, it is completely valid, and please feel free to go ahead and take the exam through the online route. Next question is from Rishabh. How do these essays differentiate from one another? Amit, I'll ask you that question, and then I'll also just ask Harshit for a minute to come in and share a little bit about his experience of writing his essays and how that flowed in terms of his profile and his interview process.
I think Harshit is the right person to answer this because he's gone through the essays, he's gone through the process. Harshit, why don't you take this?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a very interesting process, and this is something which is peculiar to ISB. I think a couple of things which are very important. One, you have to think through a lot because on face of it, it is just 400-word essay that you have to write. But in a way, you have to look back at your whole journey till now, whole life, and then you have to come up with ideas and come up with instances which will put your best foot forward, and that is something which will help you get into ISB. So one, there's a lot of brainstorming which is involved. You have to think through a lot of things. Another thing which is very important is that the application should not be left for the last moment. In case of ISB, the application procedure is so exhaustive that it requires enough and more time. So that is something which I did in my case. This is something which I discussed with a lot of my batchmates and people who have joined ISB in subsequent years, that you need enough and more time to dedicate to your application, because when you are giving that amount of thought, then only you will be able to put the best foot forward and justify yourself as a candidate to ISB. So, yeah.
Harshit. And Harshit, I'll keep coming back to you as I have a little bit more, as more questions related to student experience and life in ISB comes up. And, but right now, Amit, there's a question about, does ISB have an accelerator? I'm sorry, my screen is a little blocked for a second. I'll just need to scroll back up to that question. Does ISB have an accelerator where startups founded in ISB get initial seed or pre-seed funding? And as an entrepreneur, this is a question from Raghav, as an entrepreneur, he himself doesn't get a salary. So will his 24 months of work experience as an entrepreneur be counted without a salary slip?
Sure. Yes. So the first part, yes, we have 2 incubation centers at ISB across for both our campuses. Atal Incubation Center in Mohali and D Labs at Hyderabad. And we incubate a lot of startups, not just from the student community, but also from the ISB larger ecosystem, alums and the nearby community and so on and so forth. And as part of the incubator, in fact, we have tie-ups with a lot of other accelerators. T-Hub at Hyderabad is also one of our partners. And we ensure that people who apply to incubators get a lot of support, not just in terms of mentorship, in terms of office space, but also stipend to sustain themselves while they're building the startup. And the second part of the question, we understand that you are doing a startup, you may not be earning a salary right now, but as long as you can showcase the progress of your startup through any documentation, any other parts, it will be considered as a work experience for the 24 months requirement.
Perfect. Thanks, Amit. There's a question, and Harshit, I'll throw this to you because you would have seen this in your batch. Saurabh is asking, is it possible to transition from tech to finance after 3 years of work experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the good part about ISB is that you get to study different subjects. That is one. Second, you get to interact with people with a lot of different backgrounds. So that gives you a lot of exposure on what kind of work is there. You are getting first-hand exposure, first-hand experience of changing industries. And that is something which during the presentation also we spoke, that you have options of both changing industries and changing functions. That is something which I followed when I joined ISB, is that when you are entering, you should always open with an open mind. You should enter with an open mind, and ISB will ensure that you are getting the right kind of exposure, right kind of inputs. There are multiple sessions which happen on a weekly basis where you'll get a 360-degree exposure of all the industries, and then according on the choice that you want, you can take it ahead. One more thing which a lot of candidates have a doubt, that if I've not worked in any particular industry, then how will I put myself forward in case of interviews? That is a concern which a lot of people have. And that is where something like an ELP helps. So experiential learning program, irrespective of whatever background I'm coming with, if I have to enter an industry or a function which I don't have an experience, ELP is a good opportunity where you work on a real life project. And that experience is something which really helps in pivoting to a different industry or function. Yeah.
And I'm going to leave this question with you again, Harshit. Kaustav is asking, what is the scope of marketing folks in ISB? His concern was he couldn't see anything major in our presentation which put marketing as a career in a positive light.
I'm working in the marketing domain, so that is one. And again, obviously consulting is one, BFSI sector is another which is there, product management is there, but you name any big marketing firm, any big FMCG firm, and it will be there in one of the companies recruiting from ISB.
Perfect. There's a question from Rahul. He's asking, what does ISB consider as below average academics? Harshit, maybe I'll start by asking you how much you scored, so that you can give a little bit of a personal idea, and then I'll throw this open to Amit in terms of what is considered as good and what is considered as average.
So Arjun, I'll not share my personal academics, because again, it's not about one individual. It's again, irrespective of whatever percentage I got, that will not have much impact. But I can tell you something, my academics is not something which I'll be super proud of. And I think that is the beauty about ISB, that it is not only looking at one part of your application, which is, I mean, and this is something which is so important. I mean, if somebody, for whatever reason, didn't have a good 10th or in 12th, but that person really wants to get into a good B school, ISB gives you that opportunity. So it is not only confined to your 10th, 12th, or your undergrad. It's a complete 360-degree application process where your academics is looked into, your GMAT, GRE test score is looked into, and a very important element is your application, right? So if anybody is not very proud of or very bullish about the academics, please don't worry about it. Focus on the GMAT, GRE prep, and then on an application. And I can assure you that if right things are put forward to ISB, it would be possible. Yeah.
Harshit. Just one thing to add. See, it's about your overall profile, as Rashid mentioned. So if your CAD's on the lower side, try to cover it up with something else, your GMAT score or a work experience, quality of work experience or essays. And again, vice versa, if your GMAT score is lesser, try to cover up with something else, maybe your CADs or your work ex or essays. So that's how the whole profile is balanced. So have a balanced profile, see what you're weak at, and try to cover it up with something else which you are strong in.
Summit. There's a request from Jatin. Can you help me arrange in a counseling session? Jatin, the details are there on your screen, and I'll ask Deepak once again before we wrap up this session to just show his face so that you can put a face to the name. Deepak, if you're there for a second, can you just say hi and wave? And that's Deepak's number.
Hello, everyone. So I've been posting the link of the Google form where you can fill up and you can schedule a one-to-one session with us. So please go ahead and fill up the form immediately.
Great. Thanks, Deepak. And that's Deepak's number on the screen right now, 98 91 30 17 and 01. Okay, there's another follow-up question which is asking about the fees for the session. Deepak will be able to let you know. But yes, if you're an existing Career Launcher student, there are some amazing discounts available for you there as well. Then there are follow-up questions, and I'm going to take another 5 or 6 questions, and then we'll try and wrap this up by about 10:30, at most 10:35. Okay. There's a question about gap year. How does ISB consider gap year, and does that impact my application in any way?
So in terms of gap years, just today I was interacting with a current student who has 2.5 years of gap in his profile. And what was he doing in that 2.5 years? He was preparing for various examinations. He cracked quite a few. And in those 2.5 years, while preparing, he learned a lot. He evolved as a person, right? So gap years are nothing to be looked at negatively. We don't look at them negatively in terms of our evaluation process in the profile per se. But definitely, having said that, people will want to know what you did in that gap year. Whether you were traveling, whether you were preparing for examinations, or whether there was a family emergency, or whether something else, and how did that evolve you as a person? So be honest. Don't be defensive about it. Try to bring out the positives from that gap year, and that should be perfectly okay. And any gap year, it's not that you're totally not doing anything. You're doing something which is evolving you as a person. So focus on the positives is what I'll say. Suggest to all of you. There's nothing wrong in having a gap in your career.
Thanks, Amit. Sayukta is asking, does applying for EEO through round 2 make a difference with respect to scholarships?
So for early entry option or any deferred option, the scholarships are given with the pool in which you join. So scholarships are always for a particular year for the students who are joining the class. So early entry option, whether you apply in round 1, round 2, or round 3, you don't have to worry about the scholarship because you'll be given scholarship when you are joining the class. That is in the year in which you join the class. So you'll have an equal chance of scholarships in that particular year.
Perfect. Thanks, Amit. There's a question from Richa. If we're self-employed or entrepreneurs, how do we showcase our work profile? Pretty simple, Richa, and I won't throw this back to Amit. You just have to show what you did and how you used those couple of years or as many years that you spent as an entrepreneur, and what was the impact you made. So 1, leadership, 2, impact, and 3, career progression. You build all of that into your profile, and we'll work on you with that. It's not rocket science. It's not really that hard. There's a question from Imran. I'm sorry, just a sec. My screen scrolled up too fast. Okay, I'll come back to Imran's question. Sorry, in a minute. Question from Mariam. I'm a GMAT student here and want to ask whether part-time work during college counts in the experience. If not, is there a higher, lower competition if applying for the deferred program, or is it all from the same pool? Amit?
Yeah, so part-time work experience will not be counted for calculation of your 2 years of work experience to join the class, but it will definitely add value to your profile. So work experience, which is full-time, which is after your graduation, and which is a paid work experience, will be counted for calculation of the 24 months required to join the class. But having said that, anything which you have part-time, do mention it as part-time work experience, which adds to your profile. In terms of competition for early entry option, it's not just about work experience. We look at the holistic profile. We look at your other parameters as well. So try to showcase those aspects as well if you don't have work experience as part of your early entry option application.
Thanks, Amit. And just to share my own personal experience here, Mariam, I had 3 years part-time work experience right throughout my 3 years of college. I was a chess teacher at a pretty prestigious school, and the bulk of my admission interviews when I was applying to business schools 25 odd years ago now, revolved around chess and what I learned from that experience. So while it was not formally counted as 3 years of work experience, and it was very well paid, it was 3 solid years of work ex, but while it wasn't counted as full-time work experience, it gave me so much more to talk about in an interview that no one else who walked into an interview hall had a similar profile to mine. So it makes a huge difference. So value your work ex, make sure that you're doing something meaningful, that you can show that you've made an impact, that you've learned something. But yeah, no, it won't officially count as part of your 2-year work experience that you need to as a qualifying parameter. Okay, there's a question from Kovar. Is someone who applied in round 1 and got rejected, can they apply again in round 2 by giving the GMAT again and getting a good score?
No, unfortunately, you can't do that. So it's a single application cycle, which we call it in a year. The rounds are for the ease of application processing. So once you apply in a particular round, you can't apply again in that particular year. You apply now in the next year. So I'll suggest, be fully prepared before you put in your application. If you feel that you are not ready in round 1, go ahead and apply in round 2. But that's your one chance this year, round 1 or round 2 or round 3. You can't do it in all the 3 rounds.
There's another question. Is a 1-year course considered as an MBA? Because as per UGC, only 2-year courses are eligible to be called an MBA.
Right. So globally, if you look at my presentation I shared, so we are ranked 39th in the world in terms of MBA rankings, FT Global MBA Rankings 2023, and many other publications. We are triple crown accredited. So we are recognized by the global bodies as an MBA B school, as an MBA, and ranked highly as well. Right. Of course, we are not affiliated to UGC, and there's a reason for that, because we do not want to compromise with the autonomy. So we have been envisioned as a global B school, and we want to bring in those global elements, global faculty without any restrictions. And that's the reason we are not affiliated to UGC, and hence we are not ranked by UGC or any other body like NRF or others, but we are ranked as a global B school, and that's what we are proud of.
Summit. There's a question from Mehti. My apologies if I pronounced your name wrong. She's already applied for the YLP program last year, which was her 3rd year of undergrad. Now she's looking at her phase 2 deadline is given as 31st August. Is there any round 2 for the YLP program as well?
So if the phase 2 deadline is 31st of August, she has to give the GMAT and GRE score or the GRE score by 31st of August. After that, our interviews will happen in November, and results will come out by January this year. And in case she does not make it, I hope she does, but in case she doesn't, she can apply to YLP again by the 31st of March. So round 2 will happen by 31st of March again this year.
Thanks so much for that perfect insight, Amit. I hope that answered your question, Mehti. Chavi is asking, is there any particular work-ex that would be preferred? What if I worked in media or magazine? There is no preference. I'll quickly take that. I won't even throw it to Amit. Work-ex is work-ex. Just make sure that you show that you've actually done something, it adds value to your profile, and that it was meaningful and relevant, and that you've made an impact. Aghosh is asking, do field entrepreneurial ventures especially multiple of them, reflect negatively on the application program, or if it can be positively reflected in the application. Aghosh, I won't throw that at Amit either. It comes across, it's perfectly all right to fail, get up again and try all over again. You know, if we don't get knocked down, we won't get up again. So Edison spoke about learning 100 times to fail before he finally invented the light bulb. There's nothing wrong with failure. It's one more step towards success. But it's important. What's important is how it impacts you as an individual and how it impacts you in terms of your profile. So if you make it reflect positively, it will reflect positively. If you make it reflect negatively, it will reflect negatively. So keep your chin up. Look at what you've learned from that experience, and we can spend more time on that when we do a one-on-one session later this year. Question from Kef. We haven't talked much about HR at ISB. How's the program? Amit and Harshit, maybe if you'd like to share some of your batchmates who have studied HR at ISB, and you might have picked up a few courses as well to audit them.
Yeah, so in terms of electives, there are enough and more options from organizational behavior and different domains. So you will get options to choose. In terms of career paths, there are, I won't say many options are there, but there are enough and more opportunities for people who want to enter into the domain of HR. In fact, Reliance hires for the leadership program. And a couple of my batchmates right now are part of that. They joined as management trainees and right now are working in the CHRO office. So while I would say that there are not many opportunities, unlike consulting, BFSI, let's say marketing, but yeah, there are options on campus. And I think one of the good parts about ISB is that the CAS, which is the Career Advancement Services team, if there is any particular industry, any particular company that you're looking at, the moment you enter, you can give them a heads up and they will ensure that they are able to bring those companies on campus. So I think that is something which really, really stands out. There's one set of companies which are already there, which has been recruiting from ISB for last many years. And because of the trust and because of the brand name, they keep on coming. If there's any new company, new industry which you want to try, please put it to CAS and they will be more than happy. I mean, in fact, they look for such suggestions so that they can work on it.
Fantastic, Harshit. Amit, anything you want to add, or does that capture?
It has captured everything.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Quickly, I'll take one or two last questions and then we'll wrap things up. The questions continue to pour in, and I'm sorry we may not be able to answer all of them. If they are very specific to you as an individual, save that question for your one-on-one session by booking it with Deepak, because we're trying to answer a few more generic questions in this session. But I will take one specific question from Akanksha since she's written it. She currently has 18 months of experience, planning to apply for round 2 as she's currently preparing for her GRE. She wants to know whether she needs to apply in EEO or through the direct entry mode.
So if she's 18 months now and by 31st of March, she would have more than 24 months of work experience. So she will be a PGP candidate. But she need not worry about it. She just has to enter her current work experience, and the portal will automatically classify her as a PGP or an EO. So it's not something which she has to bother with. She just has to enter information and she'll be accordingly classified as a PGP or an EO. But in her case, she'll be a PGP because she'll have 24 months of work experience by 31st of March.
Awesome. Arpit has said he's done some brand management courses, and do they add value to your profile? Of course they do, Arpit, as long as you learn something from them, as long as they're not just thappas or a certification. If you've actually learned something in those courses, that's fantastic. Syed is asking about his volunteering work done while doing a full-time job. Yes, it will be taken into consideration because it adds to your profile.
Arjun, just to add one thing, sorry to cut you. Whatever things we have done, it's very important to mention it in the application, because it happens a lot of times that people have done a lot of interesting stuff which will be relevant for ISB, but either they undermine it on their part, that maybe this is something which is not important, or it is not being able to communicate in the best possible way. And I think that is something which all the candidates have to be extremely cognizant of, that whatever things that you have done, just ensure that you're able to communicate in the best possible way to the admissions team. Yeah.
Awesome, Harshit. And I will definitely make this the last question so that both Harshit and Amit we can say good night to them. Sanjana is asking, would the company you're working for factor into the evaluation? Amit, easy one.
Yes, so it's not about the company, it's about the work that you've done. You could be working in a top tier MNC and be at the same position, or doing the same work for the last 2-3 years. Or you could be with a young startup and do a lot of work over the years, progress. So it's about a progression that we look at. Progression could be in a lot of ways, could be promotions, could be higher responsibilities, could be in terms of achievements, could be in terms of roles, could be in terms of exposure. So that's what we look at, and not just the organization.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Amit. And once again, thank you for making time today. The kind of feedback I'm seeing rolling in from students, they've absolutely loved the session. Thank you again for your time, and we will trouble you at least once more before this admission season is over. I think the students gained a lot, and we really appreciate it. Harshit, your insights as a recent alumnus, I beg your pardon, has been fantastic. I think the kids can really connect with you. You're their vintage, not our vintage, and I think that makes a huge difference. Plus, you bring in the experience of someone who's been there and done that. So, thanks again for making time today. And we hope that you'll continue to be available for interactions with students going forward. Everyone, thanks so much for your time tonight. I hope we were able to take most of your questions. If we've missed something or it remains unanswered, our apologies. Feel free to send them to us later on, or we can take them up when we do your one-on-one profile analysis. The good news is the one-on-one profile analysis is free. So please make sure you book a slot with Deepak, 98, 91, 30, 17, and 01. Book a time with him so that you get one very soon. And we can take it from there. We'll get our experts to spend some time and review your profile in detail. Thanks again, everyone, and wish you all a very good night and all the best with your applications.
So, John,
Thank you.
all the best,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you.